Yesterday, the Ultimate Fighting Championship Baku took place in Azerbaijan, and it left us with some surprises and other results that honestly weren't that surprising. The first thing we need to talk about is La Jaula Bahamondes, a fighter many of you have been asking me about on the channel. And to some of you, I had already said that we needed to wait, because at least in my opinion, he needed to go through the fire first. La Jaula faced off against the local fighter and one of the toughest strikers in his division, Rafael Fiziev, the Ragnar Lothbrok of Ultimate Fighting Championship. And you have to give credit to the Chilean. He went all in against a guy who doesn't just have fists and legs, but weapons of destruction that could put anyone on a stretcher. The betting houses had La Jaula as the favorite, and with 3 straight losses, it's pretty understandable why. But I've already told you, you should never completely underestimate your opponent. La Jaula did what he had to do. Take a risk! Fiziev, at least until yesterday, was ranked 11th in the Ultimate Fighting Championship lightweight rankings. That is to say, if he had beaten La Jaula, he probably would have taken his spot. And they would have put him about 2 or 3 fights away from facing the champion. But for now, all of that remains in the realm of what could have been but wasn't, like you and your ex, at least for now. And honestly, I think that's fine. I'm not happy about his defeat, but it doesn't make me sad either. He wasn't a fighter I followed much, but I think he's going to learn a lot from this result. La Jaula is a good striker, but Fiziev really shined. Besides, he knew how to change levels very well at the right moments to secure the fight. A lot of heart from the Chilean, who will now have to make adjustments to get back on the path to victory. And I wouldn't be surprised if next year he's a title contender. Of course, that's if he wins his next 2 fights, at least.
We are the first country of Chile.
The other important thing that the Baku card left us is that few people must still have doubts about whether Jamahal Hill was one of those champions who just held the belt. While waiting for a star to arrive, his fight was entertaining to watch, but Khalil looked pretty dominant. We're talking about a former champion, and at least until a few hours ago, the number 4 in the light heavyweight division, who was surpassed by a man who just got beaten up by Potan Pereira. Let's remember that extremely violent fight they both had. Honestly, I think that Jamahal, just like for example Juliana Peña Sterling and even Raquel Pennington herself, they became champions because they were at a very good point in their careers, and they didn't have a very strong opponent at that moment. Let's remember that Jamahal won the title from Glover Teixeira, who was already mature at 43 years old, and Jamahal was 12 years younger. And of course, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he's a bad fighter. We've seen him dish out some real violence in the cage. But I think that 3 losses in a row, even if you're in the top 5 or 10, put you in a pretty tough situation. Of course, it's not like his recent losses were against nobodies either. He had to face 3 of the toughest guys in the division, Jiri, Potan, and now Khalil, who may not be a superstar, but when he steps into the octagon, he's there to commit attempted murder. And pretty spectacular ones at that. Maybe it's time for Jamahal to make some changes. Like, I don't know, maybe change gyms or bring in another coach or just change up his strategy. Because he's already approaching 35, and the clock is starting to work against him. Maybe we've already seen the best of him? Or maybe not. If he's still able to rethink his strategy, and well, there's not much to say about Khalil. After a beating like the one he took against Pereira, some might have thought he would be cautious or restrained to avoid getting hurt. But this former fat guy and porn addict is determined to be a champion. And the truth is, his fights are always enjoyable to watch. But now it's time to talk about the elephant in the room. The news that caught half the world off guard and probably made Dana curse in Aramaic over John Jones's retirement.
No, it's not true. I know it's not true.
Yes, if there's any mixed martial arts fan who didn't know until now, let me give you a summary. At the Baku press conference, the bald guy was giving his usual talk, and suddenly he said this.
John Jones called us last night and retired. John Jones is officially retired. Tom Aspinall is the heavyweight champion of Ultimate Fighting Championship.
And many times, the most important thing is not what you say, but how you say it. And at least in my opinion, Dana seemed anything but happy to have to deliver this news. So if John really retired, and I say that in quotes, because even though it comes from Dana, tomorrow John could come out and just to mess with everyone say, no, I'm still here. But as I already mentioned in the other video where I talked about how scared John is of Aspinall, John doesn't care about anything. Now, with Aspinall, I imagine there will be some sort of ceremony or something like that to officially establish him as champion. And besides, I dare say this has a bittersweet taste for him. I mean, you're the official champion and all that, but without stepping into the octagon, without actually winning the belt against the champion. Jones dodged him and denied him the chance to become a legend in the sport if he had beaten him.
Do you remember when I said a while ago that I was going to retire John Jones without even fighting him? I'm going to retire John Jones without even fighting him.
And yeah, I already know there will be some idiot who will say Jones was scared. That could be true or it might not be. I already explained all of that in this video, at least my opinion. Besides, there's a reality that mixed martial arts fans, just like Mr. Tartary, refuse to accept. There's what's fair and there's what's right in a fighter's career. What's fair would be for John to step into the octagon and for both of them to give us that fight that I think we all wanted to see. But there's also what's right. And if he, for whatever reason, doesn't want to risk it all and wants to ride off into the sunset on a horse, it's also right for him to do it, even if it hurts me. But since it seems his retirement is now official, let's go with an update. So if you haven't seen the video about the rise and arrest of John Jones, I'll leave it here for you. Pause this video, go watch it, and come back. Last time, Jones was flirting with the idea of moving up to heavyweight, and as you all know, that's exactly what he did. In August 2020, he announced that he was vacating his title and that he would start preparing to move up to heavyweight. And for that, he started hitting the weights hard. And he went from being a lanky John Jones to a John Jones who looked like a retired middle-aged cop. But he could beat you to death, and he would spend 3 years in this preparation, and also taking a break. During this time, Francis Ngannou would have his falling out with the Ultimate Fighting Championship, and he would end up out of the promotion, denying us that much desired fight as well.
Damn.
Since the title was now vacant and Jones was ready to return, he was scheduled to fight the former interim heavyweight champion, the Frenchman Cyril Gane. He has a movie, man it's just terrible, and it rivals Steven Seagal's films. And Gane was also considered the huge threat to John Jones. However, he had no trouble doing this to him. He took the heavyweight title and joined the exclusive list of double champions in the Ultimate Fighting Championship.
Oh!
In his first title defense, which was set to take place in November 2023, he was supposed to face Stipe Miocic. But during training, Jones tore his pectoral muscle, and just 3 weeks before the fight, he had to withdraw. He would spend an entire year out, but upon his return, he wouldn't have much trouble violently destroying the firefighter. And it's worth mentioning that many people don't consider this fight to have been fair, because they agree that Stipe was practically retired. During all this time, Aspinall had won the interim title by taking out Pavlovich, and, in addition, he had to defend it against Curtis Blades. All while Jones couldn't care less about fighting. Aspinall was more intense than a teenage girlfriend when you say hi to a female friend, but Jones just didn't seem interested. So he started talking about huge amounts of money to risk his legacy and a lot of other moves. And even though it's said that Ultimate Fighting Championship was willing to give him that cash, he just didn't want to. Proving that I wasn't wrong when I said that Jones is just going to pull his last villain move and leave us wanting to see him face the Englishman after what seems to be his definitive retirement. His record stands at a solid 28-1-1. That one loss, for me, comes with a huge asterisk, and he stands here on our list of pure mixed martial arts victories. You may like Jones, or you may not. You can talk about his doping, his eye pokes, or whether he is one of the greatest of all time or not. But what can't be denied is that every time he stepped into the octagon, you enjoyed watching him fight. He was a fighter who did amazing things, with exceptional skill. At the time, he was the youngest Ultimate Fighting Championship champion, and as of this video, he still holds that title. For me, he's a fighter who embodies the spirit of mixed martial arts, because he's absolutely complete. His striking skills, his wrestling skills, and his grappling skills are simply exquisite. And we have the video library to study him. And although, in my opinion, he's far from being a role model as a person, and he's done more than one questionable thing. It's also true that in the cage, he shined like very few in history ever have or ever will. I hope retirement suits him well, that he stays out of trouble, and that he releases some instructional videos I can add to my extreme knowledge folder. And as for you all folks, thank you so much for being there.